On this episode, Ben highlights Merschman Kennedy 1936E, an Enlist E3 variety showing to be a front-runner for a 3.6 maturity. We have soybean supply. Call us if you don't get the soybeans from another company that you were promised. There's a rumor of a new glufosinate registration coming down the pipeline. Hear about it towards the end. Watch the entire episode to see a soybean surprise.
Hi, this is Joe Merschman. Welcome to Cup of Joe, Season 2, Episode number 21. Today we have our regulars, Tommy, Turk, and Ben, and we got a lot of good news to talk about today. We're going to start with Ben.
So last week we did a highlight on a couple different varieties of soybeans and corn. So I'd like to highlight another variety just to talk about, some of the unique characteristics that we're running with here. And I think before Christmas, I want to talk to you about probably our most well-adapted, most high-yielding soybean that we have in the lineup. That is the most versatile. That's the word I was looking for, versatile.
Bee's knees.
The bee's knees. So that would be our Kennedy 1936E brand soybean. And the reason for this, the reason that I like this Kennedy so much is because it has the full disease package. There's not a place we can't stick it. Some people look at this and they say, excellent field tolerance to phytophthora root rot, and they're like, well, it doesn't have a gene. I'm not so sure about it. We believe that the field tolerance is as good as the genes because it's been tested and
we've actually seen the field tolerance being better.
Correct.
Yeah. And then the other thing, too, is, we're putting the high level of metalaxyl on our seed treatment, Bonus Coated Plus, which will give seedling phytophthora protection. So, and as that bean emerges from the ground, it gets stronger and stronger on phytophthora.
Right.
Ben, a better question is there anywhere this bean wouldn't be successful?
No.
Okay.
I believe that it is from east to west, north to south, our entire growing region where a 3.6 fits, this bean is going to be one of the beans you need to have in the market. And the reason I say that is because we have this bean in super high yield environments where it's in the top third of all of our plots and a lot of the data. And then we can take it to super low yielding environments where it has been heat stressed and water stressed, and a lack of both of those things, and the bean is still in the top third of the market. So those two components, when we can get a bean that sits in the top third or the top quarter, or even it hits a lot of number one check marks, those are the beans that we want to go forward with our farmers, because who knows what Mother Nature is going to throw at them next year. This bean can handle just about anything you throw at it.
And it wasn't just this year. We saw it last year, too.
Correct. Yep. It is
so
a 19.
we have experience with it.
Yep.
We got a lot of them, don't we, Ben?
We have a very, very good supply of them. Tommy, didn't you have a customer around the Washington area that really, really liked these Kennedys?
They actually had untreated Kennedys. We delivered them in season. It was in June. They were untreated, and they were the best beans over their entire farm.
Best he's ever raised, wasn't it?
Yes, and I think there were, the average was right, I think 81, 82. But that was an 80 acre that they were just trying, new customer, and we got their farm this year. But they were the most impressed because they have some fields that have some variability as far as soil types across the field, and they were just surprised on even how well they bushed out, how well they yielded, how well they stood, the standability, the emergence. Even for being untreated beans, they were pretty happy with that. So,
and that wasn't ideal conditions up there. I don't live very far from there. There was a lot of drought stress in there in July and early August.
It actually might have been straight west of your place across 27.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it was.
No, that's a good bean. I totally agree with you, Ben. That would be in the Group 3 maturity. You can't go wrong planting that one.
Right. So if you want to see these high yield environments versus lower yield environments and where this bean falls into place, we have our test plot data. So every test plot that we have, corn and soybeans, is included in this book. You get a hold of Carly or myself or anybody in the office, and we can get one of these test plot data books shipped your direction, because I have earmarked about 6 or 7 different varieties, or 6 or 7 different plots in here where that Kennedy is just phenomenal. Shows exactly what we want to show.
And it's backed up by the research data that you've looked at from MS Tech too, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Did Gary Kalvik have a Kennedy in his plot? It might have been too late. I was just curious.
Sure on that one. We have to go back and look.
He's a little further north. He had a good plot. His plot was very good.
It was an excellent plot.
Yes.
Yep.
So
up by Waterloo.
Yep.
Between looking at different varieties and going around trying to get as many people seen as possible before Christmas here, basically I've been working on trying to figure out what 2020 and 2021 looks like for seed production. So things have been busy and good.
It has been busy. Orders are coming in. Farmers are ready to make buying decisions, and again, we kind of touched on this before, and I'll touch on it again. That there's probably not enough of Enlist soybeans to go around for a lot of companies. A lot of companies are going to be very, very short on supply this year. When we look at what the market demand is for Enlist soybeans, we talked about how many people are looking to make a change on their farming operation, and there just is not going to be enough to go around. So make sure that you're going to work with a company that has supply. We'll guarantee supply. Anybody that orders their Enlist beans from us, we will guarantee delivery.
Yeah, and Turk, right now, I've seen numbers projected that Enlist sales could be 20% of the market this first year. I mean, really true first year, and that's gonna be a pretty big step change in this market.
Yeah.
Joe, 20% of the market change. Is there enough soybeans to fulfill that?
I think there is, but the question is, will there be enough chemical too? I think everything's got to be in sync. The yields were good on the seed production, but you may not get the variety you want. I mean, that's the way it always works out. There's probably enough varieties, but maybe not the one you want.
So my question is, there's a lot of independents, a lot of companies out there selling Enlist soybeans. We have worked with, the numbers that we have, I'm pretty familiar with. We've been working with the last 2 years or so. Are other companies, they just kind of taking what they can get, with ones they're having low supply, or is it?
Well, Tommy, what it boiled down to is the confidence level that you had in the new technology. I mean, these decisions are made like a year ago. So, some companies saying, well, where's the market going to move? Is it going to move as fast as we think it is, or is it going to move slower? We're an Enlist and a LibertyLink GT company only. I mean, that's the only thing we do. We don't focus on the Extend products or conventionals or Roundup Ready 2s. So we're totally focused on bringing these two traits to market. And some companies that have more of a smorgasbord, they have to figure out how much they can put into their system and still manage their system. So some companies that are selling the smorgasbord are probably going to be a little bit light on the Enlist E3 and LibertyLink GT27s. Companies like Merschman and Stein are going to have big piles. I mean, because we're committed to the technology. We've been working with it since the concept 20 years ago. So we're doing everything that we can to bring it. And there's some other companies too out there that I could mention that are focused on the Enlist E3 and LibertyLink GT27 technology. So it's going to vary from company to company.
Yeah, and I guess my concern was a little bit it's very important, especially with soybeans, and it was kind of played a part last year. Right product on the right acre, and we have a good idea of how we place our products versus maybe somebody who may have 6 or 7 different 3-4s or 3-5s. So I guess I was just pointing out that concern.
Well, we had a meeting this past week, and we want to talk about some of the things that could be happening or potentially happening, and let's just talk a little bit about what's going on with China and Turkey. I mean, you kind of stay on top of that for our company and talk about that, and then we'll have a little discussion about what kind of impact that could have on farmers, and talk a little bit about the fertilizer phosphate situation, and then this new glufosinate Liberty product that potentially coming. So let's just have a little discussion about that, which I think our listeners will find very interesting.
China, as everyone knows, China has reached a phase 1 agreement on the trade agreement with the Trump administration, and they've agreed to buy $40 billion worth of products from the U.S. And to kind of put that in perspective, the most they ever bought from us previously was about just done a little under 30. So it's about a 25% increase in the amount of product they're going to buy from the U.S. Now, everyone knows that half the hog supply in China all died from swine flu, and so their demand for soybeans it's going to take a while for that to come back, if it ever comes back to the level that they were buying before. But the big winners are going to be pork and ethanol and other products. So that's all included in that $40 billion.
Yeah, and Turk, you got the nays and you got the yays, the positive and negative people, and the negative people are saying, well, you can almost bet that China's not going to hold their end up when it comes to that level of purchasing. And then, of course, they're also saying, we didn't get a lot of winter wheat planted, and, we're looking at more acres of corn and soybeans, and so that's going to continue to put price pressure on our commodities. Of course, the folks that are saying yes, they're saying, hey, this is going to happen, and, we're going to need all the production we can because we got this new demand, fasten your seatbelt, get ready. So what do you think, Turk?
Everybody knows that there's going to be more corn and soybean acres next year than there was this last year.
Yeah, because preventive plant for winter.
For lots of different reasons. And so the good news is we're going to have some more demand coming from some of our customers. We've got customers that filled in the slack when and we developed new markets with new relationships with a lot of other countries that are going to want to continue to buy as well. So I think we're sitting in a good place. Again, it's not going to happen overnight, but long term, I think we'll see good prices. Again, I don't expect anything to go crazy. $4, if you can get $4 corn or a little over, probably a pretty good market. And if you can get $10 soybeans or a little over, it's probably a pretty good market. So I don't think anybody's looking for things to go crazy here.
Right. And so we got to be conservatively optimistic. Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit about some of the things we heard this week on the chemical side. Ben, you want to talk a little bit about that, or Tommy?
There's the industry as a whole, from the people we were talking to, we're expecting higher prices with the tariffs on all of the main ingredients that are used to produce the herbicides and insecticides.
Coming from China, right?
Coming from China. Mm-hmm. So when the tariff went on, they were expecting prices to raise. Well, that's not what happened. Out of everybody's surprise, China just, in turn, with the tariffs, they lowered their costs to their suppliers in order to keep volume moving, rather than the U.S. trying to outsource to different places to get input costs down.
They weren't going to lose the business.
Yep, they weren't going to lose the business, so they just dropped their margins to maintain volume, which surprised a lot of people. So, with that being said, a lot of pesticides are actually coming down in price, which is extremely surprising to everybody with the tariffs. So, that's the first point.
The take-home point is they're definitely not going up.
Right.
So, and the tariffs had no effect on anything sourced out of China at this point.
Right. And the other thing that we learned was there's a new patent that is being applied right now in a new registration for a different isomer of glufosinate that costs dimes on the dollar to produce, and that could essentially pull the price of generic Liberty down even further to where it is now. And we could see numbers less than $10 per gallon, which would make Liberty extremely efficient to spray. So
not today.
Not today. It's going to be something in the future. In the future, but I mean, if that's the case,
we all know how long it takes stuff to get through registration many times. So again, at some point in the future, good news is I think everybody's working on how to cut costs, and they know in this environment we have to cut costs. We can't keep having everybody paying the highest price. Farmers have to make money.
Yeah, and Henry, my brother, on the phosphate side, that some of the major companies announced shutting production plants down, because they're losing $40 a ton on every ton they're shipping. And so I guess the take home is, as farmers is, right now things are not going to continue to go lower. I mean, we might be at our bottom on a lot of things. And the caution is that when things get this bad for the folks that are selling to farmers, what do? They pull back on their inventory. They start conserving. They don't be as aggressive on taking a position, and that will eventually come back to haunt the farmer, because when he wants the product, it may not be there. It may be a problem getting it, and then once there's a strong demand and lower supply, that increases prices. So the smart farmer will plan ahead. He'll get his seed where he can see it, and he'll get his herbicides where he can see it, and lock these things down before things change.
I will agree with that 100%. I think one of my biggest concerns probably for this year yet is farmers getting the supply or the seed that they ordered in their shed, so when they're ready to roll, they can go. Because I tell you, the biggest problem we're going to have this spring is going to be logistics, and there's no doubt about it. And if you haven't ordered your seed, whether it's with us or whoever else, get it done, get it delivered, so you're ready to go.
Yep, I agree.
So,
well, we're going to end this segment just a little bit different than what we've had in the past, and you know, we know that farmers have a lot of stress, and I found that a good corny joke is probably one of the best things to help you just kind of relieve the stress and take your mind off things. So I got a couple things, okay, to start this segment off. You know, Ben has been working on soybean genetics very, very closely, and he's actually found one soybean that's just unbelievably good yielder. But I don't know. Do you think a soybean that looks like this is gonna work through your planters? Of course, this is what it looked like treated, but no, actually, these are stress balls. These are stress balls. And, and the other thing is, the other one is, I want to tell you the story about the weasel. Weasel walks into a bar and sits down, and the bartender walks up to him and says, "You know, we don't get too many weasels in this bar. What do you have?" "Pop," goes the weasel.
I love it. It's great.
Well, we're right before Christmas, and all of us here at Merschman Seeds, you know, it's a real blessing to work with the American farmer. We're just that's the greatest gift that we get in our lives, is to help farmers get higher yields. And all of us here at Merschman Seeds really appreciate working with you. We thank you for your business, and we wish that you and your family have a very Merry Christmas and a very prosperous New Year. See you next week.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.